Okay, so here we go. It's day 18, and you know what it is. It's Exodus 13 through 16. So go have a read for yourself and come on back. All right, so here we get to see that God is finally taking them out of Egypt and taking them into, or rather, really the right way was through the wilderness into the promised land. But you'll see that because of the Israelites' unbelief, they found themselves lingering in the place that was supposed to be through and never making it to the place that was into, at least not that generation. The next generation had faith to do it. So we should learn from them. But first of all, I want to say that this is a big picture of salvation, being set free from the bondage of sin and coming into a life with God. Now, we have some kind of marshmallow cloud rainbow fantasy idea, I think perpetuated by, the American obsession with luxury and leisure, that God intends, for our salvation to be like some kind of all-inclusive resort trip. And that's not at all what it's like. That's not salvation. Of course, it's been exacerbated by, TV and prosperity theology preachers, and, how God just wants to bless you and make you rich and provide everything you need and take away every discomfort and all that stuff. And there is a place of truth in that. And it is true that a relationship with God is something that should be victorious. And it's true that a relationship with God is about His provision. But I'll say this, that you're not going to find victory without conflict. And you're not going to find provision without having a need in your life. So when you get into it, don't get freaked out if there's conflict, because how is God ever going to lead you in victory if there's no conflict? And don't get freaked out if there's a need, because how is He ever going to show Himself mighty in a provision without a need? But that was the Israelites' problem. I don't know what they wanted, but they're good examples for us. And we see them go out. We see in verse 13 that there was a systematic plan of God. In fact, He said, don't even take them through Philistia, because they're going to freak out if they see war. And they'll want to turn tail and run. So He had a systematic plan. The way He was taking them through with, the pillar, the cloud, and the way He wanted them to go, and everything that He was doing, the way He was going to show Himself mighty in all this, how He was hardening Pharaoh's heart. And He had a systematic plan. But they went along, they didn't get too far, and then there were scary problems. And that's like into Christian life. God has a systematic plan for your life, and there will be scary problems. You'll be terrified, and a lot of times we're terrified to give up the things of the world, to give up the comforts of the world, to embrace and deal with anxieties and fears and all those things. But so what did they got in there, and they got backed up to the sea, and they saw Pharaoh's army coming, and here they are terrified. But what they failed to realize is God was creating conflict so He could provide a victory. God was allowing a need so He could make for provision. And I know we can see it from afar off right now like this really well, and it makes sense. But when it's in our own life, and when it's our own anxieties, when it's our own problems, well, then it's a little bit different, and we want to see it a little bit different. So, so we saw that there was a systematic plan, that there were scary problems. Also in this, there was a supreme purpose, that God would be shown mighty. That was His whole purpose, that He might be glorified in all of it. He said even in Pharaoh's army, even by Pharaoh's chariots, that He would be glorified, and that people would look in awe as they saw Him take out the Egyptian army. And the only explanation for it, as Israel went about, is, hey, they're God, they're God. And later we'll see that people had heard, people like Rahab, that said, hey, listen, we've heard about you coming, and we've heard about your God, and we've heard what he does and how mighty he is. And so God had a supreme purpose in it all. So, and you can count on this, the one last thing, after all those things have passed, you know, that God's supreme purpose, his systematic plan, the scary problems, that you will find, if you're faithful, you will see supremacy proven in God. That every way along the way, he provides the victory. He makes for the provision. He, you know, everything that they needed. And you saw how they wanted to whine and cry and get upset so quickly, you know. So y'all ever deal with a child where a child had something, and as soon as you reach down and you go to take that away from the child, oh, they start crying and they throw a fit and they bawl and they stomp their feet, you know. And then you can hand it back to them, and as soon as it gets in the child's hand, oh, the tears are gone and they're okay. That's what we're like spiritually. You know, if something is taken away, if something is removed, some feeling of peace or some feeling of security or some money or something like that, and oh, as soon as that physical thing is going out of our hand, we want to, you know, stomp our feet and cry, or maybe our health too. You know, and if it's gone for a moment, we want to cry, we want to freak out, and, you know, coming back in, as soon as we get, oh, we're okay then. We're like children. You know, we really are, and that's the way we behave. And, you know, as soon as our health or wealth or comfort or peace or anything like that is challenged, then we want to do like the Israelites, and we want to complain. You know, we want God to fix the problem now. And so I see all that in them. And I see what they had done, and we go through here and what the Lord provided manna, and how they were foolish to try to gather too much after he told them, and that also the Lord provided quail, and and they wanted to complain, right? And they complained to Moses and Aaron, but really God made it clear. He said, listen, when you're complaining about all this, you know what you're really complaining about? You're complaining about me. So those who name the name of Christ, and those who say that they're a Christian, those who say that their life is in accordance to the will of God, and that they've surrendered their life to him, and that they're trusting that God is directing their lives, as, you know, that they believe that by faith, be careful about complaining. Because ultimately, you know, think about it. God, my life is in your hands, doing me as you please. I don't like this, and I'm unhappy about that, and I'm no good with this. And God, ultimately you have to get to the, you know, you put those two together in coherency. Even if it doesn't come across to you that way, it comes across to the world like, I don't like what God's doing with my life. And I'm discontent with this Lord that I talk about. And so we need to be very careful and conscientious about how we go about trying to live out our Christian faith. And honestly, these folks got stuck in this desert because of unbelief. And they were never able to enter into the place that God intended for them to enter in because of unbelief. And don't think that because you walked out of Egypt that you're going to necessarily exercise the faith to walk into the promised land. That is the spirit-filled life, the place that God has for you to live out your life in victory and service to him. So, hey, these are sober things, you know, and I don't mean to be heavy or whatever, but I don't know. It's what, that was 13 through 16. It's the Bible, you know, I guess it's my fault. But anyway, there's a bad note in there. The good note is that even in their grumpiness, their stubbornness, that God provided, and God provided, and God provided, because his ultimate goal was to bring them along. His ultimate goal is to bring us along. So, hey, I'm glad you're reading, and glad you're following along, and apologize for the long videos, but hey, you watch them anyway, so yeah, I guess it's all right. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.